Welcome, Pastor, as he comes to bring the word.
Good morning. The sermon is My Horse Surrendered. Mack? Did anybody ever see the movie The Outlaw Josie Wales? I've watched it 2 or 3 times, and if it comes around again, I'll watch it again. I may have it recorded. I think I do. Josie Wales did not surrender. He rode with Bloody Bill Anderson. This is the movie. Rode with Bloody Bill Anderson. When Bloody Bill Anderson decided to surrender, Josie Wales was the only one that refused. He never did surrender. So when everybody else surrendered, he was riding, trying to get to the Indian Territory so he would be protected, safe. He runs into this old Indian chief. And he's quite a character. But they get to talking about surrendering, and Josie said, I never surrendered. And the old Indian chief said, I never surrendered. My horse walked into their camp, and my horse surrendered. We, the people, have not surrendered. But our politicians have surrendered, and we have been captured. Now, there's some bad times coming in this country. I know J.P. Morgan is saying there's not going to be a recession, a depression. I hope they're right. But I'm not seeing that. Now, I'm going to tell you what. If you've been listening to me and I've tried to warn you, others have tried to warn you, you need to be prepared. And 10 pounds of rice or 10 pounds of beans and a truckload of ammunition is not going to get you through. Can you really believe anything that politicians, Democrats or Republicans, tell you anymore? No. Can you believe anything that the media tells you anymore? No. Because they're all political anymore. They're either Democrat or Republican. America right now is in a state of confusion, frustration, uncertainty, and that feeling of impending disaster is hanging over our head like a black cloud. The problem is that the 2 institutions that's supposed to be the foundation of the nation, the home and the church, seems to be in a state of decay, falling apart. We've got pornography that's gone crazy, available to anybody, drug and alcohol abuse, open borders, fentanyl coming across the borders in massive amounts. People are scared. And have a right to be. They're uncertain. Maybe. We need a national repentance. We need to turn back to God, back to the church, back to family, back to the Bible, back to morals, back to values, and back to holiness. Let's get back to my horse surrendered. Politicians have surrendered our unalienable rights, guaranteed by the Bill of Rights. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are empowered by their Creator. Creator, not the government. With certain rights, among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. The Bill of Rights. The men who signed the Constitution refused to sign it until the 10 Bill of Rights were added to it. The Bill of Rights were given to protect the people and their rights from an all-powerful, overreaching government. All-powerful governments throughout history, if you read anything about history, they have had the tendency, government has had the tendency to become the master of the people instead of the servant of the people. And a lot of people don't know this, but 24 of the 56 who signed the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, 24 out of 56 either had a seminary or a Bible college degree. They were ministers. 24 out of 56. Now I have here the 10 articles of the Bill of Rights. I'm going to go through each one. Amendment 1. Congress shall make no law respecting the establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. And then it talks about freedom of speech, press, and the right of people to peaceably assemble and petition government. Article 1. The government is not to prohibit the free exercise of religion. And yet government thinks they have the right to mandate during a crisis of COVID, mandate churches closed, and mayors governors thought they had the right to mandate that churches and businesses close. I refused to close. We went outside. We went outside for 3 weeks. They think they have a right to mandate that you take a shot. But if you don't take the shot, they mandate it. You can't get on an airplane and you can't go into some public buildings. Freedom of religion today has almost become freedom from religion. And they talk about prohibiting the free exercise thereof. But the government has removed God, prayer, Bible from our schools and from public buildings. Is that prohibiting the free exercise thereof? You can't even put a religious scene up in public. You can't put the 10 Commandments up in the courthouse anymore. You can make all the laws in the world, but until we start obeying the first 10 that God gave, none of the rest of them mean anything anyway. All of the other laws that are written because the 10 are being disobeyed. You can't even put up a religious scene, a manger scene, on public property. Now you can put up Santa Claus and Frosty the Snowman. And if you pray in public, you might offend somebody. So prayer is being dictated by the state. When a football coach can be fired because he walks out on the field after a game, gets on his knees and thanks God that nobody got injured, and he gets fired because he prayed. He didn't ask anybody to go with him. Preachers and churches are in danger if they speak out on moral and social issues like homosexuality and abortion. Do you realize the government has the right, in their mind, to remove tax-exempt status from churches. That means the churches, you couldn't take off anything that you give to the church, couldn't take it off your taxes, and churches would have to start paying taxes on all property. Every seat in this place would be taxed. The building, property, outrageous amount of taxes. So much for the first article of Bill of Rights. Let's go to Article 2. A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Military is defined according to this as every able-bodied citizen of the state. It's not the army, not just the law enforcement, it's every citizen. And the right of the people cannot have their right to keep and bear arms infringed. There's no limit on it. So what they do, government wants to nibble at you. Nibble at you. They want to limit how big a magazine you can have for your weapons. If it's got over 15 rounds, it's not legal. You can be arrested. Proponents of gun control. It's not everything that the government is doing today has nothing to do with gun control or drug control or anything else. It has to do with people control. And they want us to believe that restricting weapons to the people is actually going to make us safer. They must think we're idiots. They must think we're as stupid as they are. Guns don't kill people. People kill people. That's like saying drunk drivers are not responsible for killing people. It's the car. So let's take all the cars away from people. Wasn't their fault. It was the car's fault. The purpose of a well-armed citizenry is not just for protection from other citizens. It was first and foremost for the protection of the citizens from an oppressive, overreaching police state government. That's why they want to limit it. You were dismissed. I don't want anybody to complain about how long I preached today. I was in the barber shop in the O show, and some guy came in and said, I drove by your house and I see you've got gates on your driveway. Do you lock your gates at night? Well, at the time I did. I said, yes. He said, why? I said, because I don't want to have to shoot some idiot who thinks he can come in and take anything he wants. And I said, do you lock your door at night? He knew he was caught. He said, yes. I said, why? He said, because I don't want to have to shoot some idiot who thinks he can come in. Article 3. I won't take this long on all of them. This talking about military being able to take over a house. The military under the King of England could take a home for military purposes. When a general would come into town with his soldiers, he would find the nicest, most expensive home, and he would kick the owners out and take possession with no compensation. He would take possession for military use. Article number 4. The right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable search and seizures without warrants and so forth. The colonists had suffered general searches of persons, homes, shops, papers, homes and businesses were ransacked with no reason other than an anonymous tip that they were against the King of England or they were doing something illegal. And this was done at the hands of the king's representatives. Article 5. No person shall be held to answer for a capital or otherwise crime without an indictment of a jury. And this deals with double jeopardy and having to witness. You don't have to witness against yourself in a court of law. You are not to be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. And private property is not to be taken without just compensation. I don't think I'm even going to go into that. Article 6. It has to do with a right to a speedy trial and a public trial by an impartial jury in the district where the crime was committed. And it guarantees you the right, you have a right to face your accuser. If they're going to witness against you, they have to do it in a court of law with you there to witness it. Well, article number 7, double jeopardy, reasonable doubt, basically what it is. If there's reasonable doubt, a person has to be found not guilty. I didn't say innocent. They can't find them innocent. They can find them not guilty. And they cannot be tried again for the same crime, same offense. So much for the first 7 articles. Let's go to Article 8. Article 8. Excessive bail not be required. Excessive fines imposed or cruel and unusual punishment. Okay, basically this is talking about instability of the law. When there is instability of the law, then there is a breakdown in confidence of the justice system. Today, judges are turning criminals loose that they know are going to get out and commit the same crimes over and over and over. They turn them loose, no penalties. They had a man on television that had been arrested 48 times in 1 year for shoplifting. He would take his big heavy garbage bag in, fill it up with stuff, take it out on the streets, sell it for what he could get so he could buy drugs. And he laughingly, they interviewed him, he laughingly said, the 48 times, that's just the times they caught me. I do it hundreds of times every year. Instability. Article number 9. We're almost through. Actually, it says you cannot use the past or the Constitution to deny the rights and ruin the reputation of people. I'm not going to deal with that a whole lot. Article number 10. Actually, Article number 10 deals with states' rights and the people's rights over the federal government's rights. It prohibits the federal government from creating agencies or departments that has the power to rule over the states and the people. Now listen to what I'm saying. When the federal government creates different departments like education, transportation, communication, Department of Labor, Endowment of the Arts, Agricultural, and the latest one is Environmental Agency. On and on and on. The power that they have, I think you're bored. I think you're already way asleep, went to sleep on me a while ago. If states fail to comply with these different departments, then the federal government will withhold federal funds from the states to force them to comply. Well, that's the last of the remaining articles of Bill of Rights. Church, this is a battle for the soul of America. We're fast losing our rights and fast losing our freedoms in this country. We have limited rights and controlled freedom. I think it's time for judgment to begin at the house of God if my people who are called by my name, and you know what it says. We as Christians, listen, we as Christians have stood by and watched freedom after freedom after freedom and right after right of the people taken away from the people. Yes. We've stood by and watched and voted in people who were determined and announced they were going to take our freedoms. We've watched God, prayer, Bible taken from our schools because the government said it was not right. And the result is that America has lost her spiritual and moral values. Parents, schools in a lot of places are claiming that once you take your child to school, that child is no longer yours, it belongs to them. Hell no! Parents, you are responsible for what's being taught to your children in schools. And God will hold you responsible. And you better hold school boards and principals and teachers responsible and tell them you are not going to show my 5-year-old child face cards with pregnant men and mess them up about whether they're boys or girls. Yeah, that's what I say, woo. It's what I said when I was preparing it. We have watched the breakdown of home and family. Kids don't even know what gender they are anymore. It's time for America to stand up, for Christians to stand up and tell our politicians enough is enough. I think it's time we turn back to God, church, the Bible. It's time for revival in America. It's time to get back to some character, honesty, integrity, morals, values, and holiness without which no man will see the Lord. So where do we start? Where do we start? There's enough people who actually call themselves Christians, and I believe they love God. But they sit home and watch television on Sunday instead of being in God's house. There's enough of them sitting at home watching television. We could turn this 4-state area upside down if they'd still show up in God's house. And the sad thing is, oh God, have mercy on me. The sad thing is, there's just a lot of Christians who have let television and COVID become their God. Can't go to church because they're afraid to get COVID. Listen, we've got one of our deacons back here. He was near death. They didn't think he was going to live. But you know what? He's in church almost every Sunday. Don't let COVID or anything else keep you out of God's house and make you violate God's word. Amen. I got to quit. Should have quit before I started, I guess. It's time for judgment to begin at the house of God. Where do you stand? Are you saved? Do you know you're saved? Have you been baptized? Do you have a church home? Have you joined a church somewhere? Faithful? Are you faithful to it? Are you a tither? Where do you stand? What happens in this country is going to depend on where Christians are willing to take a stand.
Oh, beautiful for pain to dream that sees beyond the years. Thine alabaster cities be undimmed by human tears. Oh,